Republic of Kenya. Very, very big day in the country as the preparations are underway. They're just putting in the final touches at the Kenyatta International Convention Center, where Kindiki will, of course, take oath of office. Remember, this comes after the three-judge bench of the High Court yesterday declined to extend or issue new conservatory orders that would have stopped the swearing in of Professor Kindiki. And yesterday in the evening, a few hours after the ruling of the three-judge bench, we saw a flurry of gazette notices. From the gazette notice that, of course, did declare the putting in place of the Assumption of Office Committee, which has 21 members and chaired by Secretary to the Cabinet, Mercy Wanjau, to another gazette notice indicating that indeed Professor Kindiki will be sworn in today, to another gazette notice that indicated Prime CS Musalia Mudavadi was set to take over as the acting Interior CS, and to another gazette notice that indicated today, 1st November 2024, as a public holiday. 4 gazette notices in a span over a few minutes. Now, many Kenyans with questions in their minds. People are talking about the rush and all that. But that aside, Kindiki Kithure Professor, the former Interior CS, is set to become the 3rd Deputy President under the new Kenyan Constitution. People talking about the circumstances that have led to him becoming the 3rd Deputy President under the new Constitution. But before the run-up to the general elections in 2022, he was among the front runners to be picked as the running mate by President William Ruto. And in fact, ousted Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua at some point while he was still in office and introducing leaders from that region at a particular event said they were neck to neck with Professor Kindiki in regards to who was to be picked as the running mate. And the president, that is President His Excellency Dr. William Ruto, told them to sit down and, of course, try and decide who will let who be the running mate. And Rigathi Gachagua was narrating how he told Professor Kindiki that he was a bit older and Kindiki was a bit younger, so he would appreciate if he would have given him that opportunity. And that is a call that Professor Kindiki heeded too. But as fate would have it, only 2 years later, after agreeing to leave the position for Rigathi Gachagua, is set to assume office as the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. Now, the gazettement of today as a national holiday, was a public holiday rather, has also raised questions among some certain quarters here in the country, because people are talking about whether it is by design or intentional. Nobody knows whether the lawyers representing Rigathi Gachagua would have gone to court today to seek conservatory orders stopping the swearing of Kithure Kindiki or not. But it being a holiday, it sort of throws a spanner into the works in regards to the team or the legal counsel representing Deputy President Rigathi, ousted Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. We'll be talking about that at length this particular morning here on The New Dawn, as we just try and put everything into perspective and make sure you are updated in regards to what is happening here in the country. According to P.S. Omolo, the Principal Secretary in the Interior Docket, and the P.S. in the docket where Professor Kithure Kindiki did serve until yesterday, or until when he was, at least when he was nominated by President William Ruto, because there's still a gray area, or there was still a gray area in regards to when did he cease to become the Interior CS. Remember, after being nominated by the President and 236 members of Parliament voting to approve his nomination, a few days later, he was supposed to appear in the National Assembly. But he did not, and members of Parliament were debating whether he should indeed appear or not now that he was the deputy president designate. But an acting interior CS was yet to be appointed. But yesterday, after the gazettement that indeed he will be sworn in today, Musalia Mudavadi was appointed as the acting CS. So meaning he ceased being the CS as of yesterday rather. So the PS that was serving alongside CS Kindiki in the interior docket, that is Raymond Omolo, did say yesterday that they are expecting at least 10,000 Kenyans at the KICC grounds for the swearing-in ceremony of Professor Kindiki as the deputy president, and insisted, or rather said, that they have put all the measures in place, security, to ensure that all the people will be attending that particular event will be safe, the traffic flow will be in order, and remember, it being a holiday, then things will be a bit easy across this city. We saw residents of Tharaka Nithi yesterday hitting the streets, celebrating the appointment of Kindiki as the deputy president. We'll be talking about that, and even as we look at what is making headlines in the local dailies this particular morning. Now remember, you can watch this particular show live across our social media platforms at K24 TV. You can stay with us throughout the day until Professor Kindiki, of course, assumes office as the second in command. And according to PS Omolo again, President William Ruto will, after the swearing-in ceremony, have a state banquet in honor of Professor Kindiki as the new deputy president before Kindiki proceeds to his Harambee Annex office to officially begin duty. That is according to Interior PS Raymond Omolo. But on that note, just want us to now have a look at what is making headlines in the news this particular morning before we talk about matters Professor Kindiki being the second in command and just the third deputy president under the 2010 Constitution. We begin our bulletin now, and former Interior CS Kindiki will be sworn in as the deputy president today at the Kenyatta International Convention Center in Nairobi. This follows a gazette notice by Secretary to the Cabinet Mercy Wanjau yesterday. Head of Public Service Felix Koskei has since gazetted a 23-member assumption of office of the Deputy President Committee that will oversee the organization of the swearing-in event. Now, the gruesome court battle for impeached Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has been dealt another blow after the three-judge vacated conservatory orders that blocked the swearing-in of Deputy President nominee Kindiki. According to the bench, the Constitution does not envisage vacancy in the office of the Deputy President due to public interest, which paves way for the swearing-in of Kindiki as the DP, dealing a final blow to the impeached Deputy President. As Martin Opio now reports, the courts ruled that they have jurisdiction to hear the matter in question.
The string of losses followed the impeached DP when the appellate court declined to stop the three-judge bench from making their ruling on key issues, including the request by government side, National Assembly and Senate to set aside the conservatory orders that blocked Kindiki from assuming office following Parliament's approval.
On E522 of 2024.
And when the bench sat, blow after blow was delivered. The biggest was lifting the conservatory orders, which set the stage for the swearing-in of Kindiki as the next deputy president.
Regarding whether the applicants will suffer any harm if the conservatory orders are not granted, we find that no individual can suffer loss or damage when the Constitution is permitted to operate as intended. Allowing the constitutional process to unfold does not in itself result in detriment, as it upholds the rule of law and respects the framework agreed upon the people. The applicants also urge the court to grant the conservatory orders, expressing concern that the respondents have a history of disobeying court orders, and that once the office of the Deputy President is filled, it will be impossible to remove the appointee, even if the petitions were successful.
The following orders are hereby issued. 1. The applications for conservatory orders are hereby disallowed. 2. The conservatory orders issued on 18th of October 2024 in Keregoya High Court E015/2024 are hereby discharged and or set aside. Costs of these applications shall be enforced. We grant leave for appeal, typed proceedings, and certified copies of this ruling to be availed to parties at cost or as it may be. We will mention this matter on 7th of November 2024 at 2 p.m. in the open court.
The High Court in Kerugoya had issued orders barring Kithure Kindiki from assuming office as Deputy President, pending hearing and determination of a case filed before it. David Munyi Mathenge and Peter Gishobi Kamotho sought the orders after the National Assembly approved the nomination of Kindiki as the new Deputy President, a day after the Senate voted to impeach Rigathi Gachagua. Mathenge and Kamotho sued the Senate and the Speaker of the Senate and 2 others. In doing so, the court severs that the makers of the 2010 Constitution did not envisage at any given time that there will be vacancy in the office of the second-in-command.
As such, public interest demands that the office of the Deputy President should not remain vacant. Whether the constitutional petitions will be rendered obligatory in the absence of any orders. As we stated in ruling number 1, because the conciliated petitions challenge the entire impeachment process, the fundamental issues at stake remain live, even though the parliamentary proceedings have been completed. Furthermore, as previously noted, should any of these petitions succeed, this court will have no shortage of effective remedies to address the situation.
According to Justice Mrima, a constitutional crisis may prevail if the current crisis persists.
Suspending any provision of the Constitution, even temporarily, would undermine this principle by creating gaps in its operation and disrupting the intended balance of governance. The Constitution is structured to ensure that all its provisions are effective and operative at all times. If any provision, such as Article 147, Sub-Article 2, is rendered dormant by a judicial order, it risks setting a precedent where parts of the Constitution could be selectively switched off, effectively weakening the Constitution's authority and the protections it affords.
As pertaining to the jurisdiction, the High Court ruled it has the jurisdiction and the right to intervene in the impeachment process, which doesn't interfere with the separation of powers.
Article 165(3)(d) Roman 2 expressly grants the High Court the authority to determine whether any act purporting to have been done under the authority of the Constitution or any law is inconsistent with or in contravention of the Constitution. This reinforces the High Court's pivotal role as the guardian of constitutional integrity, ensuring that all actions by state organs or individuals are in full compliance with constitutional dictates. A closer examination of the Constitution confirms that the drafters expressly intended to exclude the High Court from hearing appeals related to tribunals established under Article 144. Given this explicit exclusion, and against the foregoing discussion, if the drafters had similarly intended to bar the High Court from determining disputes under Article 145, they would have done so with equal clarity. Nothing would have been simpler, in our view, than to expressly exclude such jurisdiction in the same manner. The absence of such an exclusion with respect to Article 145 strongly suggests to us that the drafters intended for the High Court to retain jurisdiction over such impeachment matters. This approach to interpretation, whereby jurisdiction is said to be unlimited in the absence of any explicit limitation, is supported by the Supreme Court in their decision in the case of R versus Karisa Chengo. The Supreme Court noted as follows, we quote, "The limits of this authority are imposed by the statutes, charter or commission under which the court is constituted and may be extended or restricted by like means." We emphasize that if no restriction or limit is imposed, the jurisdiction is said to be unlimited.
The three-judge bench ruled that the political question doctrine cannot oust High Court jurisdiction. But the ruling did not sit down well with Gashagua's lawyers, who had hoped that the bench would reconsider their decision by rescinding it. This all collapsed too.
And I make an application, Your Lordship, that pending the determination of this application, that this Honorable Court does issue conservatory orders suspending the swearing in of Professor Kindiki.
The matter is coming up next Thursday, 7th November. Martin Opio, K24 TV, Nairobi.
Now, attempts to save himself before the courts have proven futile, with each attempt hitting a dead end. Rigathi Gachagua now stands impeached, paving way for his replacement, something he fought so hard to prevent. We now take a look at the battle that has not borne any fruits for the impeached deputy president.
And I just want to make two small points.
Blow after blow, Rigathi Gachagua appeared as a man clutching at straws, desperate to save his political career. But the corridors of justice, which he hoped would be his shield, have instead echoed the beginning of his political downfall. One court rejection after another has become the recurring theme in his fight. Each petition, each plea, all answered with a resounding no. Earlier, Gachagua had turned to the Court of Appeal, asking for a stay on the High Court's decision that ruled the three-judge bench legally constituted to hear his case. His prayer, however, was denied, setting the stage for the unraveling of his last hopes. When the same three-judge bench ruled to lift the stay that would prevent Kithure Kindiki swearing in, Gachagua once again made a last-ditch effort, requesting the court to overturn its own order and allow him to appeal. His argument that Kindiki's appointment was marred by procedural irregularity and therefore should not proceed.
By way of a stay, albeit temporarily, of the orders that this court has issued. And we are not seeking these orders in eternity. We are moving into the appellate court once we have the ruling. Number two, my lord.
History will absolve the petitioners that we have brought to your attention that you have the duty to protect the constitution, that the person qualified should take over. I'll wait for the ruling. Finally,
many of the petitions had been overtaken by time, and if you look at our petition as amended, we actually raise concern about the process of election of the deputy president designate in our amended petition, and so it is quite in substance and whatnot.
One after another, Gashagua's legal team passionately addressed the bench, each lawyer presenting arguments, each hoping that this time their pleas might break through.
And you saw the first one, Bat versus Rent Tribunal. It is one of the most cited cases on the question of stay. And in that case, the Court of Appeal said, my lord, allow me to read, and then I'll sit down. There is no inconsistency in granting such an injunction, a mother paper injunction, after dismissing the motion. The purpose of the order is to prevent the Court of Appeal's decision from being rendered nugatory, should that court reverse the High Court's decision.
But after a recess to consider the arguments, the bench returned with another devastating blow. Once again, it was a resounding no.
We further note that some of the arguments that have been raised on the floor will form substantive arguments at the main hearing of the petitions. In any case, since the Court of Appeal is already seized of the matter, as we have confirmed from both sides, the parties have an opportunity to move the Court of Appeal accordingly. As such, the applications are all hereby disallowed. Orders accordingly.
With each defeat, Gachagwa's fight to remain in the political ring grows more tedious. This story of resistance may soon close, but for now, the battle he once championed seems all but lost.
Of course, the news of the conservatory orders not being extended, or the three-judge bench not, of course, granting new conservatory orders to stop the swearing in of Professor Kindiki, was met with various reactions from Kenyans. Let's just now listen in to what various Kenyans had to say in regards to that particular development that happened yesterday at the High Court.
Tumekubali hayo yote, lakini ile kitu iko hatutasahau. Maana watu wamefinyika na watu wako na hasira ndani yao, lakini tutagojea. Miaka 3 sio miaka mingi, tutagojea ili tuweze kuleta mambo yetu mahali tutasikizwa wakati tutakuwa tukivote.
Mr. President, at least this is not what you promised, bana. You are against what you promised. I'm very frustrated. In the first place, I'm frustrated. I should even shed tears. I feel like shedding tears, bana.
Vile ametoka, hatutalalamika sana. Mungu aliye hai, ambaye alitupatia tukaonyeshwa ya kwamba lazima tutaendelea. Hata kama serikali inafikiria mambo yake, mwananchi wa kawaida tunajua tegemeo lake ni Mungu.
Mimi sina haja ni nani atakuwa amewekwa au ni nani alikuwa. Mimi maoni yangu ni kwamba hii serikali yetu iweze kuangalia maslahi yetu. Iweze kuangalia mama mboga, mtu wa dereva wa bodaboda, iangalie mtu wa chini.
Kama mwananchi wa kawaida sijaridhika kwa sababu tulikuwa tumechagua Rigiji na Ruto tukiwa na roho safi, lakini kwenye tumefika tumeona ya kwamba katiba ya nchi yetu haitumiki vyenye inafaa, na mwananchi wa kawaida kuna vyenye anadhoofishwa kabisa na hii katiba ya sasa. Kwa hivyo kwa maoni yangu hatuna imani kabisa na hii serikali yetu, but all we wish ni for the 3 years zenye zinakuja kutakuwa na mabadiliko and all will be well.
Being loyal is a good quality for a deputy, because the deputy many times has no existence out of the principal. If a deputy starts to have an existence outside the principal, then it means that there is no alignment of the vision and mission. So I know that Professor Kindiki will bring a lot of weight as a thinker, a person who is a profound thought leader. He will bring a lot to that space, and I expect him to perform exemplary as he has.
Well, the sentiments of those who've just spoken there, and from many of the Kenyans out there, is that whatever happens, all they care about at this particular moment in time is that service delivery is prioritized. At the end of the day, what they care about so much more is life made easier for them. Remember, this comes at a time when a lot of mess is being witnessed in various sectors, including the rollout of the Social Health Insurance Fund, with patients decrying a failure to access services despite making contributions to the new health scheme. But on that note, we'll just take a small breather. We'll be back with what is making headlines in the local dailies. Don't go away.
When it's a Saturday, there's only one entertainment show in East and Central Africa. Arena 254. Join Aisha Wanjiku